Please all rise as you can for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence or silent prayer as your conscience finds appropriate. Thank you. Please be seated. Members of the council, you have, I hate it when my screen decides to rearrange all the windows. You have before you a draft agenda. Are any changes required to the agenda? And does anyone have any conflicts of interest?
I have neither.
Mr. Town Manager, we were going to add, it's going to just come up under new business, so we don't need to formally add it, but a discussion of a request from the RPBA as new business item 3. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, sir. We don't have any packet material for you this evening, and I don't believe Mr. Herman's able to be here.
Okay, very good, but we can start the discussion. Okay. I presume from silence that no one has any conflicts of interest. So may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Kellogg. Is there any discussion of the motion to approve the agenda as submitted? Are there any public comments on the motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
And she's back.
Okay, recording was restarted. Very good. Just didn't want to lose the minutes there. I know the recordings are used for the minute to create the minutes. Okay, so any public comments? There were none, so we'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia is absent. Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. That brings us to presentations, and the first of these is a proclamation in recognition of Arbor Day. And I'll start in English and then move to Spanish. Proclamation 2025 Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton presented to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas the mayor and council commit to operations, programs, initiatives, legislation, and resources that support the town's tree canopy, therefore be it resolved that the town of Riverdale Park mayor and council do hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the town of Riverdale Park and call upon everyone in our community to observe this day with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies. Y ahora en español, proclamación Día del Árbol 2025. Considerando que en 1872 J. Sterling Morton propuso a la Junta de Agricultura de Nebraska que se reserva un día especial para la plantación de árboles, y considerando que esta festividad, llamada Día de Árbol, se observó por primera vez con la plantación de más de 1 millón de árboles en Nebraska, y considerando que el Día de Árbol ahora se observa en todo el país y el mundo, y considerando que los árboles pueden reducir la erosión de nuestra preciosa tierra vegetal por el viento y el agua, reducir los costos de calefacción y refrigeración, moderar la temperatura, limpiar el aire, producir oxígeno que da vida y proporcionar un hábitat para la vida silvestre, Y por cuanto los árboles en nuestra ciudad aumentan el valor de las propiedades, mejoran la vitalidad económica de las áreas comerciales y embellecen nuestra comunidad, y considerando que el alcalde y el consejo se comprometan con las operaciones, los programas, las iniciativas, la legislación y los recursos que apoyan la copa de los árboles del pueblo, por lo tanto, se resuelve que el alcalde y el consejo de la ciudad de Rivera Park proclaman por la presente el 25 de abril de 2025 como el Día de Árbol en la ciudad de Rivera Park, y exhortan a todos en nuestra comunidad a observar este día con programas, actividades y ceremonias apropiadas. Very good. And now, second on the agenda, a proclamation in honor of Earth Month 2025. Whereas care for the earth is central to our survival, and whereas Earth Day has evolved from the 1970 teach-in on college campuses to 54 years of action involving 190 countries and more than 1 billion people, and whereas, despite ongoing efforts by many, the Earth remains in dire need of attention and action on the local, state, national, and international levels. And whereas there is a need to expand the local tree canopy to improve water quality, to reduce waste and litter, and to educate each other on improving the environment. And whereas the town of Riverdale Park has established a vision and commitment to sustainability and has created a sustainability committee which is comprised of active and dedicated volunteers focused on improving the local environment. And whereas the town of Riverdale Park has developed the Go Green initiative and associated grant programs, installed energy-efficient features and fixtures on town buildings, and incorporates sustainable practices into its daily operations. And whereas highlighting April as Earth Month provides a necessary focus while advocating for Earth Everyday action. Earth Day Everyday action. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Council of the Town of Riverdale Park do hereby proclaim April as Earth Month and encourage all residents, businesses, visitors, and employees to join with the Riverdale Park Sustainability Committee and taking action every day to improve our planet and make our lives and the lives of future generations healthy and sustainable. Y ahora en español, una proclamación en honor al mes de la Tierra 2025, considerando que el cuidado de la tierra es fundamental para nuestra supervivencia y considerando que el Día de la Tierra ha evolucionado desde la enseñanza de 1970 en los campus universitarios hasta 54 años de acción que involucran a 190 países y más de 1,000 millones de personas. Y considerando que, a pesar de los esfuerzos en curso de muchos, la tierra sigue necesitando urgentemente atención y acción a nivel local, estatal, nacional e internacional. Y considerando que es necesario expandir el dosel de los árboles locales, mejorar la calidad de agua, reducir los desechos y la basura y educar a los demás sobre cómo mejorar el medio ambiente. Y considerando que la ciudad de Riverdale Park ha establecido una visión y un compromiso con la sostenibilidad y ha creado un comité de sostenibilidad que está compuesto por voluntarios activos y dedicados enfocados en mejorar el medio ambiente local, y considerando que la ciudad de Riverdale Park ha desarrollado la iniciativa Go Green y los programas de subvenciones asociadas a instalar características y accesorios de eficiencia energética en los edificios de la ciudad y incorpora prácticas sostenibles en sus operaciones diarias. Y considerando que destacar abril como el mes de la tierra proporciona el enfoque necesario al tiempo de que aboga por la acción del Día de la Tierra todos los días, ahora, por lo tanto, se resuelve que el alcalde y el consejo de la ciudad de Riverdale Park proclaman por el presente abril como el mes de la tierra y alientan a todos los residentes, negocios, visitantes y empleados a unirse al Comité de Sostenibilidad de Riverdale Park para tomar acción todos los días para mejorar nuestro planeta y hacer que nuestras vidas y las generaciones futuras sean saludables y sostenibles. Thank you very much. Wonderful thing to be focused on, the health of the planet. Take action locally. That brings us to the third presentation, highlights of the fiscal year 2026 proposed operating and capital improvement budget.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, members of the community, and the staff team. We're doing something a little different this year. We've created several documents. So tonight we're going to go over what we're calling the budget guide. It gives kind of a high-level view of the budget, and then a lot of pretty insightful background information of how we got here and where we're going, propose to go, and budgeting our values. So tonight, it's a 37-page document that we're going to review. Then we have a budget summary that we're formatting. We're still doing some formatting work on that, but that'll come out in a few days. And that takes a closer look at each cost center and will highlight any significant changes year over year in the cost centers. And then finally, by the end of the week, the link for the 397-page budget book. What we're trying to do with this approach is to break things down into workable pieces. And we're really hopeful that members of the community will pick up a 37-page document or view a 37-page document or a 40-page document and have the information that they need and that they want right there at their fingertips instead of looking for it amongst the 390 some pages. So that's our hope. Before we start, I want to thank Gentry and Paul and Jessica and Chris and Keith, the leadership team, for working evenings and weekends and nights, putting together all this information, conducting the research, to put together a comprehensive, balanced proposed budget for the mayor and council's consideration. So as we look on the next page, you'll see that the proposed operating budget is $11,727,703. And if you kind of move that up a little bit, we still want to see the totals there. Then there's a breakdown on each side, revenue on the left, expenditures on the right, of how the money's proposed to be spent and what the sources are. And the mayor and council and the community should be somewhat familiar with this format in terms of the cost centers. Mr. Jones reports out our revenue and expenditures every month, and then we share that with the community as well. So on the subsequent slides, well, let me stop here. Yes, again, for the current year, we did receive the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the Government Finance Officers Association. And it's not just receiving the award. I was reading through the comments that the reviewers, because it's peer reviewed, and we're getting really good comments on our budget from professionals outside of Riverdale Park. And so over the years, we've gotten some nice comments and some constructive criticism. We've always tried to do better each year. And in this most recent one, there's a lot of nice comments. So as we move on in the presentation, the first part here is going to be my budget message, and I want to take a few minutes to walk through this, about 4 pages here. So covered the first and second paragraph. In the third paragraph, we talk about spending, aligning spending with the town's values. And so in this document, in the summary and in the budget document more broadly, it's apparent that walk, bike, drive is a central tenet to what it is that the town is trying to focus on, as is stormwater management and sustainability. Those are central focuses in this proposed budget. In November, the Budget Committee, myself, Mr. Jones, Mr. Smith, and this year we have Ms. Barnes joining us as the Staff Budget Committee. We talked about and we spoke publicly about the uncertainty that we would likely face, and that it would match or exceed the uncertainty we dealt with in the spring of 2020. And unfortunately, as we are now here, we see that uncertainty in the local economy and the economy around the DC metro area, and federal employment and grants. There's lots of other issues that are affecting our residents and our businesses as well. And so we then get into some information here about the importance of controlling expenditures and understanding the stressors that are on the town's budget. We still have a pipeline of projects. And so we reported last year that there's 805 units in that pipeline that would represent 2,000 new residents. And from what we understand, that's still true. But we don't expect any of that building to initiate soon. And last year, this time, we were projecting that we would start to see new tax revenue from that development in 2028, and we're delaying that by 4 years in our projection. So what we're thinking 2032 is when we would start to see revenue from new development. Sounds like a long time, 6 years out in budget years. And perhaps that changes, but for now, that's our best determination. We talk frequently about the triennial reassessment. That's a state process of reevaluating properties. The town just went through its reassessment back in the fall with new values taking effect July 1 of this year. And the values across all categories, we were hopeful to see an increase. And we saw an increase, significant increase in the residential land use categories, with the exception that townhomes remained relatively flat. But if you look at this graph, you'll see by category what it was in 24 and 25. So the first is commercial, then exempt commercial. The tall one there in the center, that's the change between 24 and 25 in residential, then in industrial, commercial residential, multifamily, townhome, relatively flat, then residential commercial, and then commercial condominium. We on the staff team aren't quite sure yet how the state's differentiating between commercial residential and residential commercial, but we're working to get that explanation. But there are 1,620 taxable properties in town. And, I listed a bunch of folks at the beginning, thanking them. And whenever I try to go through a list, I inevitably forget someone. I just want to thank Ryan Shelton because he did this research that we're talking about now and interacted with the state and put all this stuff together. So Ryan, well done and thank you. But the properties, the commercial condominium and industrial, they account for 11.5%, let's say, of parcels in town. And they contribute 41% of the real property tax. But as we're looking at the impact of commercial and industrial properties, I was surprised that nearly 60% of our police calls for service are at commercial properties. And so the commercial properties are a driver, if you will, for municipal services. So in looking at this budget, I mentioned it's 11,727,703. And the operating budget is remaining relatively flat as it relates to expenditures, especially if you factor in the inflationary rate. Now that's except for employee-related cost, so that's salary and benefits, and contractual services and municipal building operations and maintenance. While that has gone up a decent percent, in real dollars, the building operations and maintenance is relatively small. Mr. Chelton. So this illustration highlights what I just said. So you have the various categories of expense, across the bottom there are cost centers, and then the percent increase year over year. So you'll see the salaries are that red line's at 3.5%. That's what we're anticipating. Inflation will at least be. That's the minimum number we think we'll see over the course of fiscal 26. It depends on what happens perhaps by the end of this meeting or tomorrow morning, but we're making the best determination we can. And but when you look at this and you see, all right, operating expenditures increasing 0.44%. Other expenditures, 0.19%. Weather response staying flat. Events, 1.88% increase. Grants, 1.28% increase. So as a percent year over year, there's not much change in the budget or the proposed budget. And it's important to note that while the salary expense overall, budget to budget, is projected to go up 3.12%, that doesn't equate to employees receiving less than the rate of inflation, a 3.5 increase. We were very fortunate in the last year to hire some really qualified folks, but we hired lower than what we projected. So I think that helps, but when you compare year to year, it's not as big of a jump because we had thought we were spending more last year. But it's good to know that, and we'll see this here shortly, we're proposing a 2.5% COLA for the staff, and they still would get their merit or step increase provided that they perform well. Mr. Chelton. So then it's time to take a little look at what's happening with the revenue. And in fiscal 25, the current year, we had substantial transfers into the operating budget from the Health and Wellness Fund, from the Economic Development Fund, from the General Fund. We had revenues coming in, transfers in to balance the operating budget. The good news is that in this proposed budget, instead of being hundreds of thousands of dollars being brought forward, we're transferring in 147. 100 of that goes to the contingency line item, which ever since we've added the contingency line item about 5 years ago, we've never had to tap into that. It's there. If there's an emergency, you don't have to amend the budget, but we haven't had to use it. Now, with that said, it's important to know that we are proposing using general fund unallocated dollars, so general fund from the fund balance, to pay the last payment of the PNC debt service. So every year we've been paying about $297,000 in this PNC loan. Fiscal 26 is the last payment on that, and we're proposing that we take from the fund balance to pay that. So you'll see here, if you can move the chart slightly, local taxes going up some, license permits coming down some, administrative fees up, fines, forfeitures up, automated enforcement up. That's because we'll have a full year of the red light enforcement. We may also have some stop sign enforcement, automated stop sign enforcement. Hopefully that's up and running by the end of this calendar year. Our intergovernmental revenues, we're figuring they're going to be down some. Reimbursements and rebates will be flat. And the far right-hand side, the other revenue, that's the transfers in. We're transferring in much less money to the operating budget. So how do we explain for the increase or account for the increase in local taxes? We're proposing a targeted commercial condominium and industrial real property tax rate increase. And we're proposing that increase be 6.1 cents per $100 of assessed value. That will yield $272,766. So next there's, and we'll come back to the tax rate information. That's just the initial information. As you'll see later on in this document, there's comparisons of what that translates into for businesses. Next are a series of graphs. I would encourage everyone to look through these. I think really valuable information here, comparing a 6-year period of salary budget to salary actual, our benefits the same, overtime, contractual services, and then the two charts on the bottom of this page of operating expenditures and other operating expense. So you'll be able to see the last 6 years, what we've done with our budget and what the actual expenses have been. And this chart represents the percent of that $11,727,703 operating budget. Where's the money go? And so you can see on this pie chart everything from weather response to around the pie to public works. So how much of an increase did we have year over year? 4.91% is the increase between fiscal 25 and fiscal 26. And what we tried to do was to make sure that we are balancing the competing demands, implementing new programs, especially on the economic development side, expanding arts, continuing to support programs and grants, and expanding economic development programming and initiatives. And we further anticipate a tightening of revenue net operating expenditures. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes as well. You'll see how we've been saying for a few years that number keeps coming down and it continues to hold true. So looking ahead, in 27 and beyond, I'm encouraging the council and the town to look at other opportunities to help the long-term sustainability of the town. Things that we can look at, just two are included here, but there's many others. And the two that are mentioned are looking at additional changes to the tax structure as it relates to land use if there's vacant buildings or vacant land, especially causing diminution to neighboring properties, that's something to take a serious look at, and whether or not the town raises rates on vacant land in the future. We also may want to look at having some sort of a parking fund established and have paid parking in commercial areas. Businesses generally benefit from that by forcing parking turnover. But these are some things to look at in the future. And then in closing, it's the same reminder that I give every year. And in closing of this memo, not of the presentation. And that is, it's important for us to recall that budgets are designed as the best calculated and strategic determinations that we can make at a given moment in time. That has always been true. It takes on new significance considering how things may change day to day. With that, I'd like to pause and ask if there's any preliminary questions.
Council members, questions, comments?
Yes, Mr. Town Manager, how are you?
Good evening, sir.
Yeah. I'm in doubt of something in this town of Riverdale Park. Like some areas, they have a low-income multipurpose building for some people. I don't think, do we have it in Riverdale, town of Riverdale Park?
The town does not have a housing authority, a public housing authority, and the town does not own low to moderate income housing. There's low to moderate income housing in town, and some of it is subsidized through various programs that the county has.
Who are in charge?
Pardon, sir?
Who are in charge of these low-income houses?
I would refer anyone who's interested in exploring that to the county housing authority. So Prince George's County has a public housing authority. And I would refer anyone interested in a public housing as it relates to low to mod income housing to the housing authority.
Okay, well, that's number one question. The number two question I want to ask is that we are, I don't know. But anyway, let me leave that alone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, council member. Additional council questions for the town manager?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, Mr. Town Manager, and perhaps this is something that'll come in later in the presentation, but that commercial property tax increase proposal. I know when we did a similar thing for residential, or I guess for all properties, that was sort of earmarked for walk, bike, drive. Is there any thought into similar designation for that increase, proposed increase in the commercial rate?
Not in and of itself, no, sir. But we did put substantially more unrestricted funds into the Economic Development Fund. And we have a variety of programs where we're going to be rolling out as it relates to economic development and helping to support businesses. So you're going to see a redoubled effort in terms of outreach, grants, helping businesses plug into assistance programs, whatever ones still remain. And so you will see that. But the funds are needed to pay for basic services.
Understood. And support absolutely all those great economic development programs, and looking forward to hearing more about those. It's just notable to me, since you noted it, the calls for service to public safety number there, and recognizing, I don't know why my camera all of a sudden got fuzzy. But yeah, recognizing our largest budget item is public safety, and the largest users of public safety calls fall into that category. So look forward to having more conversations about how to ensure that our funding of public safety is equitable in that manner. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Town Manager.
And sir, that's what we're looking at here. Are the residents underwriting that expense, and to what degree?
Thank you.
Additional council questions or comments? Councilor Malingua, I thought I saw you. There you go. Unmuted. Go ahead.
Yes, I am. Excuse me. First off, congratulations on putting this document together, and I'm sure I speak for the council in appreciation for the effort that staff has put in, as you've described. The idea of that opening page where it's a quick overview of revenues and expenditures, I think it's a great idea. I'm glad it was employed. I think the one thing I would like to bring up regarding what the increase that we're looking at here on commercial rates, it's my hope that what we're looking at is this is a first step on the aspect of this budget in this fiscal year and how we're approaching this budget. The second step being by us as a council and working with staff as well to be able to demonstrate to these commercial properties and businesses in town that we would like to work with them to help them grow and evolve within the community. I think that's one thing that if we're able to do that, it's going to be something that's in the long run really going to be of a benefit to them as businesses as well as to us, to the residents here. And in this area, in this smaller municipal area, this immediate municipal area will be a benefit all around to the surrounding municipalities.
Thank you, Councilmember. Are there any additional council questions or comments? Are there any public questions? Oh, Councilmember Alon.
Yes. I'm coming back.
Okay.
Mr. Town Manager, let me ask this question again. The increase of this property, multipurpose property, let me see, the taxes are the increasing there. That you know that will affect the resident of that area, because the more you increase some revenue against them, the more they add it to the residential people, the people that occupy the place, they pay more money.
Sir, we're not proposing any increase to any residential property. What we're proposing is an increase to commercial condominium and industrial. And from the staff perspective, this, and it's mentioned later in the report, this supports the what we've heard from the mayor and council in terms of wanting to promote mixed use development throughout the town. So if a property is mixed use, has a residential component, it would be at the current tax rate. And the increase would be on just commercial condominium or industrial. So multifamily, sir, we're not proposing increasing the rate on multifamily, on single family or on townhomes.
Well, who are monitoring these people? This multipurpose commercial building, who are monitoring them? Because every now and then they increase the rent. Every now and then they increase the rental. In fact, before Um, like the place where we live before, don't pay for water, don't pay for light, don't pay for anything. But now, paying for water, light, gas, it's not a house, it's a multi-purpose commercial building.
And
Who are monitoring these people? Who are listing these places?
So the town does not monitor the rents that landlords charge to residential tenants. That's not something that we do. The council did a number of months ago vote and sent a letter to the Maryland Attorney General's office, who did in fact launch an investigation into multifamily property owners who were price fixing basically rents and having unfair rent increases on the residential side. So I think the council did what they were able to do in trying to encourage that type of an investigation. But as it relates to what we're proposing, sir, it has nothing to do with apartments. It has nothing to do with residential properties at all.
Well, because why I'm saying this, the time we came here, I was paying like $1,285 for 2 bedroom. Now I'm paying $1,805 for 2 bedroom. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, sir, the prices have gone up, but the town is not proposing. I'm not proposing to the council that we increase taxes on multifamily buildings. That's not what's being proposed.
That's why I was asking who is monitoring these people. If we know, then we can talk to that person. Let them talk to them. Why are they increasing the rent like this?
Councilmember Calhoun, if I can answer that, the county is certainly, so the county has implemented some rent control legislation over the last few years. I'm not sure exactly what the status of that is right now. I believe they made it permanent that rent increases can only be so much, but there is an overall economic driver in that there's a shortage of housing. There's a lot more people than there are houses. I think that some of this is driven by investors who are buying up properties and leaving them empty while they appreciate and waiting for the price to go to some level and then sell it. And that's been driving up rents and property costs overall. Is that people seem to be investing in this way rather than, and I think that that even though the town is a large organization and we have a lot of influence, that going up against real estate billionaires is going to be, we're not going to do too well at the end of that. And there's lots of issues that they can manipulate to, if we try to institute our own rent control that is more restrictive, perhaps, then that might result in actually less available housing in the area. So we have to walk carefully there. So that's the answer. But the answer is that the county is monitoring rental prices. We are keeping an eye on what the county is up to, and we're talking. But we are not regulating it, and we are not expending a lot of effort on monitoring exactly what's going on with the rental prices.
Okay, well, if that's the case, you and the town manager can start talking to the county that your people are suffering. The people you guys are in charge, they are suffering for this rental increase. So I think that's what she's going to do.
Okay. Well, I have been talking to Councilmember Olson in particular over the last few years about this issue, and he's very aware of it. And I've been passing on the feedback I get from individuals to him about what's going on with rents. So he's aware, and I believe that probably contributed to the county instituting the rent controls that I was discussing.
Okay, well, a lot of people, they evict a lot of people because they don't have money now to pay. Okay.
Councilmember Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering, I believe I heard correctly that this increase would not apply to mixed use properties?
Correct, because that would have a residential component.
Right. So, yeah, I think I'm share the concerns of my colleague from the Sixth Ward, and I think by incentivizing mixed use housing, um, that's a really effective thing we can do as a town to solve the problem that my colleague raises, right? We're incentivizing denser housing, increasing the overall supply of housing stock, which will, in a perfect world, cause rents to fall. In a more likely world, produce less upward pressure on rents, and so that our rent prices will hopefully not grow at such a rapid pace. So I think yeah, just sharing that concern from my colleague from the Sixth Ward, but that's exactly what it seems to me this proposal is meant to address, is increasing our housing stock so that rents do not continue to escalate at such a rate that they become unaffordable. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Are there additional council questions or comments on this presentation? Are there public questions or comments on the presentation? Well, thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Many thanks to all members of the staff who contributed to both the presentation. Yes.
I still have 26 pages to go.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I will move along as quickly as I can. Mr. Shelton, if you can advance the screen there. There's background information in here. Please review it. It's interesting to me that the most updated census is that our population shrunk by a couple hundred. Mr. Shelton. So we have the budget assumption information in here. It explains how much we need to maintain in reserves, what our projected fund balance will be at the end of the next fiscal year. Very healthy fund balance. We aim to keep it a very healthy fund balance. There's information here about transferring the funds to debt service, as I spoke about earlier this evening. Mr. Shelton, if you want to keep moving up here, there's information here on the tax rate, more information on how reassessments occur, and repeating that. And you'll see the information about the proposed tax rate increase, I think 4 different times in this. I don't want anyone to miss it. I want to be hyper transparent and say, here's the information, here's the analysis, here's why we think this is necessary and proper. Mr. Shelton, if you could advance to well, let's pause here. We see overall that the assessable base has a good trend line. Now, this doesn't include the Calvert track. The next graphs below this will talk about what happens in has happened historically as it relates to percent of growth during reassessment years. So we're happy with the overall growth. In terms of we saw some positive movement there. The Calvert tract basically stayed flat, though. The townhome stayed flat. Some of the commercial properties lost value in Riverdale Park Station. And there's information on that as well. Mr. Shelton, if you could keep advancing. Well, let's talk about this for a minute. Abatements and deletions. So when we receive our constant yield notice on Valentine's Day. I have no idea why the state picks Valentine's Day, but they do. We historically have seen abatements and deletions. So that's adjustments. Just think of it as an adjustment. An anticipated adjustment, primarily because commercial owners are appealing their new values. So the vast majority of adjustments are because of those appeals. And historically, we've seen between a little over 3 million to 18 million allotted for likely deletions. This year, 31 million. So that tells us that the state is anticipating more appeals. As a matter of fact, we received a list of appeals about 10 days ago. It had 19 properties valued at over $2 million appealing. And then just a few days later, that list was updated to 26 properties worth over $2 million that are appealing their assessments. Mr. Chelton. There's graphs that depict that. And then this verbiage here pretty much repeats what it is that I said about that. If you can advance. So this is looking at the values by land use. And again, talking about the commercial condominium and industrial, and proposing what we believe is a modest tax increase there. And then this particular area, I think, will be helpful to the mayor and council as you consider this proposal. And in the first table, looking at commercial properties, a table under that, looking at industrial properties, both the median and the average assessed properties, what the taxes are on those properties currently, the revenue at the new rate, and what the difference is. And that's a per year. And I always like to look at per day when talking about commercial properties, because I think it's fair. So for example, if someone has a property worth about $950,000, the increase in taxes from the 0.6890 to the 0.7500 is going to be about $1.59 a day. So just under $1 million property, about $1.59 a day increase. And then Mr. Chelton also prepared this next table for us, showing the industrial properties, and median value $157. It's going to be $100 a year, and average value 6.2. It'll be $3,800 a year. So a couple dollars a day. Mr. Chelton, if you can advance through these next parts. Hang on one second. Let me just say that we're not proposing any increase to the business personal property tax. And once we get into the budget, you'll see we're actually predicting that revenue is going to be lower. It's just uncertain. And then the operating tax, which is the tax on utility companies' property. There's no recommended change there. The admission and amusement tax, no recommended change there. No recommended changes to the town's fee schedule. When we talk about the debt service, again, we're recommending paying that out of general fund through a transfer to the debt service reserve fund. But it is good news that next spring, next May, will be the final payment on the PNC loan. And you see here that if you actually tab down just a little, so no new debt, 322 being transferred to pay debt service. Healthcare, 5% increase. I got to tell you, I think we're lucky. I think Mr. Smith is good, but I also think we're lucky. Because if you recall, Mr. Smith had negotiated with our healthcare provider a 2-year lock back in fiscal 24. So we've been locked in fiscal 24, fiscal 25. There were no increases. Well, there's an increase in 24, but we locked for 2 years. And now in 26, a 5% increase. I think we provide pretty good benefits, and a 5% increase is not that bad. We are proposing to continue to pay 78%. That's what we historically have done. Technically, the way this was set up, it was supposed to be a 75-25 split. Before I arrived, the town started paying 78%. We've been able to afford that, and we've continued to pay 78%. And the proposal is to continue that for our staff. If you want to keep moving there, Mr. Shelton. We have our different funds, and when we get to the budget public hearings, I anticipate a lot of discussion about the Economic Development Fund. Mr. Shelton, if you can go up just slightly, well, just down a little bit. There's for fiscal 26, we're transferring in to economic development $180,000. We really want to redouble our efforts. Now, some of that we envision being used for placemaking, some of it for grant programs, some of it to help the Main Street program, some of it for the business roundtables that we're going to initiate, some of it perhaps for the Farmers Market Dollar Program. And we look forward to having that discussion with the council, whether or not we can have a reduced program, or if not the Farmers Market Dollar Program, some sort of food assistance program. So we are putting those one-time funds there. Other post-employment benefits, we're just keeping that steady at 271. Community Development Block Grant Fund, we have money there, and we're not transferring in additional funds, and we're projecting $25,000 in expenditures next year, primarily through the grant programs. So unauthorized positions, we are asking to go up one in authorized, but it will be unfunded. If we end up getting grants for a different position and we could then use funds to hire, great. There's a support position that was asked for in the police department, it'd be a civilian position. We can't afford to fund it. There was also a position requested in development services. We can't afford to fund that either. We are also, as part of this whole balancing act, eliminating a part-time position in public works. It's not occupied currently, and so there won't be a person losing their job, but we're not going to fill it simply because we didn't have the funds to do that, to find balance. That was part of the finding balance. Future positions, we just got to be strategic. I've already mentioned the pay range plan and the 2.5% proposed cost of living increase. Mr. Shelton. So there's lots of information in here about budget stressors, on inflation. Go to the next one, please, Mr. Shelton. Restricted use revenue, you'll see that in neighborhood services, so the money we bring in through the licensing programs, permit programs, pays a portion of our neighborhood services, and then it's supplemented by general fund dollars. Next. Same with on the public safety side of things, our gross revenue with all the automated enforcement, 2.6. So that comes off of what our general fund contribution is. I believe the next graph shows that. So you have the cost of our public safety, and then you take that 2.6 off of there for fiscal 26, and you land at that 3.4. And that's the amount that's coming from general fund dollars. Expenses, fuel cost, we are coming down. It's a nice trend line, hasn't come down enough. but it's a nice trend line. And as we continue to explore alternative fuel vehicles, we hope to see that continue. This shows the history of the cost of living increases. If you recall, in 24, we had a base salary competitive market analysis that found that generally positions were underpaid. Anywhere, I believe it was like from 6.5% to 10%, depending on position. And what was decided on, we would do a flat 7%. That was split over the course of July 1 and then the second half in January 1 of that year. And then since then, we did a 2.5 last year, and we're proposing a 2.5 this year. Healthcare increases going up. Most important thing to recognize here is that we have hired a significant number of folks that aren't as experienced as perhaps I am. I don't want to say folks are younger or something, but with younger employees, they're more likely to have a qualifying event and switch from a single healthcare benefit plan to a family plan. And the difference between the cost is about $15,000 to the town. So each qualifying event will increase our healthcare expenditure. Mr. Shelton. Defined benefit plan. I mentioned this, I believe, in the last few weeks. We were looking at the discount rate, and I'm really glad we did, especially with what's happening in the market today. Hopefully it's not long term. But the discount rate is there's an inverse relationship between a discount rate, which is your anticipated rate of return over the long term, and what your actuarially determined contribution, your ADC, is. So the lower your discount rate, the higher amount you have to contribute. We were at 6.8. We had Bolton do a study. They worked together with our fund manager at PNC. They recommended we go from 6.8 to 6.5. That's what is baked in here. And that increases our rate to 21.6% in terms of contribution. And that explains the increase in the defined benefit cost, as well as when you have turnover and you have more folks enrolling in the defined benefit plan, as opposed to the other plan the town has, which is defined contribution plan. Overtime expenditures, we had not too good of a trend over 3 fiscal years. It's coming down slightly. We're working on that. We're using part-time employees wherever we can. And we hope to continue to bring that back down. What we have to remember is, though, as salaries go up, we may have the same amount, same volume of overtime. It's just costing us more. So it's not necessarily just the hours, but we are looking at hours and wherever we can reduce that cost. Workers' compensation, we saw a 10% increase. We're redoubling our efforts and doing what we can to try to bring down the cost. There's a 5-year analysis there. We did have, you see in the center there, in 24, that was an adjustment that the company, had contacted us and said, hey, we didn't have your census calculated correctly. Excuse me. Workers' compensation is not just based upon your experience ratio. It's also based upon payroll, census of employees, and what the payroll is. So they had conducted an audit. said, hey, you were being undercharged. And so they came back to us. It was timely that they did it. But when they did that, so actually that 279 and that 190 probably should have been inflated some over what we actually paid, and they made up for it in that following year. Next slide. So this is the one that I talk about every year. And if we can show the whole graph here. And so we talked about, hey, we were doing really good revenue net operating expenditures, going up, going up, going up. And then it was like, it's coming down, it's coming down. And if you look at this, you may think this is good news and say, wow, that's wonderful. We controlled our cost, and revenue net operating went up to 1.5. Well, things aren't always as they appear. Remembering back to the beginning of this discussion this evening, back in the fall, Gentry and Mr. Smith and I, we talked about the uncertainty and said, what are we going to do? We held positions vacant. We came to you and said, let's scale back this curbside composting. We've scaled back training and travel. We've scrimped and saved wherever we could in the current year to drive this number up. So in the paragraph that follows this, you'll see an explanation that if you take out the nearly 1.2 that was vacancy savings. Now there's also some funds in here from real property tax that we were not realizing. There's a property in town on Rivertech Court that had not been, the property owner, St. John's Property, had not been paying taxes on it. And you knew about one of their properties, one of the St. John's properties from last year's discussion. And then we reviewed the situation on their other property, which is College Park Academy. That property is taxable, should have been taxable all along. We've worked with the state and the county, and they're able to go back and charge 3 years. And that's what we're doing. And so when you factor in that real property tax and the vacancy savings, and that real property tax is north of 250,000, I think it's 261 maybe. But when you factor that and the vacancy savings in and take it from that 1.55 up above, without those things, our revenue net operating expenditures would be 357,000. And that's the amount that we then would have to put into economic development, to put into community development, to put into CIP. Now, the good news, and Councilmember Smith mentioned this earlier, this budget does take the walk, bike, drive, the 3.5 cent on a previous tax adjustment, and it puts that $351,000 directly into CIP for walk, bike, drive related projects. So that is there. Next slide, Mr. Shelton. So on the following slides, I'm not going to read through all these this evening, but the following slides walk through various vision and commitment statements and what it is that this proposed budget is attempting to do. Mr. Shelton, can you run through those? Let me see if I missed any charts or anything. Keep going, sir. So those pages pretty much summarize what it is that I've been saying in my commentary tonight. And with that, Mr. Mayor, this is our budget guide document that provides a lot of, I think, really valuable information for folks to wrap wrap their brains around what's happening and how we're trying to budget to the town's values. And with that, I'll take any questions, and I look forward to sending out the summary and then the budget book later this week.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager, and apologize for cutting you off early. Those mid presentation pauses always confuse me a little bit. So, council members, do you have questions for the Town Manager on the second half of the presentation?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Lustician. I was wondering if you could expand just a slight bit more while we're here, so we can consider this prior to the meetings we have scheduled regarding the uncertainties with the intergovernmental funding.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where we're being cautious. I'll say it that way. On the CIP side, for example, right now our Safe Streets for All money is still in play. It's still available. I'm not going to bring a contract for you all to sign anytime soon. We need some more, we're banking on it, if you will, projecting that it's there. We're going to spend some funds, but we're trying to be as smart about it as possible. We were advised, and Director Barnes, perhaps you can chime in here, but we were advised, for example, that our cybersecurity grant. So we had a cybersecurity grant, a couple $1,000s. Jessica, was it 6,000
Actually, I think it was 17,000 total
or 17?
because it was 2 years. Mhm.
Okay. And but those funds are no longer available to us. And so that our grant was from the state, but we were a subrecipient because it was federal funds. So so we lost that. So we're being very cautious, still programming the money, still trying to move forward. But before we execute something, we're going to do everything we can to actually make sure it's not vapor. And it all depends on what the federal government happens to do on a given day.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Additional council questions or comments? Any public questions or comments? I have several things to ask myself, but given that it is 8:45, I'm going to take them offline and ask you there. But thank you again. Thank you, and thank you to all the staff who are involved. And I know that pretty much all the staff were involved at some level or another in preparing this fantastic budget. And I look forward to the discussions over the next several weeks to hammer out any issues with the budget and things to do. So thank you again.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councilmember, go ahead.
Well, maybe for some it may be appreciated that, you're going to take those questions offline. There might be questions and responses there that might be of interest to a larger party. Is there any chance we would be able to receive these responses to the body?
Well, I was planning on holding at least most of them. I might ask one or two in my weekly meeting with the town manager. I was going to hold most of them to the budget hearing, and so they'll be available there. I can send out a marked up version of this presentation and see send an email to the town manager and you can see them if you'd like to see the questions at least.
Well, I would. Thank you.
Okay, I will work to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the mayor's report, but it is 8:49, and we have some residents who have come for public comments. And so I thought if the council would entertain it, that we could let them bring up their comments and we could discuss that now. Is that acceptable to everyone?
No
Fine by
objection.
me.
Okay, so the Popes are here, and so please, if you want to go ahead with your questions about cleanup on Powhatan.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Thank you, Jessica, for showing the photos. Thank you, John, for your emails and members of the council. I am Dr. Amity Pope speaking on behalf of the members of the community on Powhatan Road. Now, Jessica, you can flip through the pictures as I speak. It's perfectly fine to do that. Are you okay with doing that? Okay, cool. So along the lines of keeping the environment clean and sustainable, as Mayor Thompson mentioned earlier in this meeting, lately Powhatan Road has been increasingly affected by litter, as you can see in the pictures that Jessica will go through. Especially, there's a lot of broken glass, discarded alcohol beverage containers, and this litter compounds specifically in front and directly across the street from a residence that's displayed in the pictures being presented. This litter poses serious safety hazards, particularly for children who play barefoot on the grass. There's a large park across the street from this residence. And it can pose injuries for dogs who can easily, cut themselves running or walking, being walked in the community. What should be a safe, welcoming environment is becoming dangerous and very uninviting. At one point in time, there was a microwave or refrigerator left in the field, as well as a shopping cart. This is no longer the neighborhood I remember growing up in, and 100% of the residents and home and business owners I've spoken with have all agreed that the litter along the street in that specific area is absolutely deplorable. On several occasions, Riverdale police have been called to address non-residents without permits that sit in their cars, meeting people walking up from the dead end and then pulling off, as well as groups of individuals that drive and park and then loiter outside of their cars, although they're not residents of Powhatan Road. They do this at late hours and makes it very difficult for people who have to wake up in the morning to get enough sleep. Additionally, frequent parking violations on the street have made access to driving more difficult and unsafe. On average, there are about 10 illegally parked vehicles. In the evening times, right now, there's 5, which further increase safety concerns amongst homeowners in the community. Illegally parked cars reduce visibility, increases risk of accidents, especially for children crossing nearby streets or for families with strollers and pets. Now, there's a team that collects trash, and on Sunday, they collected over 100 pounds of litter on Powhatan Road. Yet, this isn't really their responsibility. And for those that produce the litter, this may actually just encourage them to not see a need to change their behavior. The residents in question has received violations from the town in the past. However, without heftier consequences for these violations, it's highly probable that change behavior will be stagnant to unverifiable. Town of Riverdale Park, we can do better. We must do better. Thank you, Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Dr. Pope. I appreciate you bringing this to our attention. And as you said, the town manager sent a response and to your letter and your photos, and plans to have additional staff monitoring of the area, and hopefully we can make things work better here. And I will have a little bit of information in my report, which is upcoming next, about some changes in the state legislature that will also perhaps help us to address compliance issues overall. So again, thank you for bringing this to our attention, and I apologize that you've been having to live with this for a while. I know your street fairly well. I've knocked on your door many times over the years while campaigning, and I walk through occasionally. I'd say once a quarter or so. Then I come through there and see what's going on. But I was unaware of this recent buildup of trash. So appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council members?
I just want to reiterate, Mayor Thompson and Councilman, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. As my daughter explained, we have had the home here for 42 years. And it really saddened me to see the condition that the street the neighborhood has turned into. And not only the litter that you see, but there are actually auto repair service going on right there in the street. And as you saw in the picture, there's a green, there's commercial trucks being parked down there as well. And literally, when you come, you have to squeeze through to get in and out. And, it's, like I said, we've been there 42 years, and it's rapidly deteriorating. You see in the picture here, the young lady, girl rather, she taken upon herself to help clean up. She's a neighbor nearby. And, it's sad. It's really sad. And there has been a parking permit implemented on the street, but yet it's not enforced. We have multiple cars down there all the time, all throughout the night. It just cars being parked from elsewhere that do not live there. Mm-hmm. And this problem been going on. I've contacted the police department many times, and they have actually come down and put citations on the cars and trucks, but yet still the problem continued. And so we need this issue solved. And my daughter and we are voicing for the whole street here, the whole neighborhood. So we ask that you do something about it. The councilman for this ward, I have not spoken with that person. In fact, I don't have that information. I know you all sent out a newsletter, and I believe my daughter has one. So that councilman, is he on this call tonight?
I believe so.
Ward 4, right?
Ward 4.
It's
yes.
Right on the border. Yeah, I'm right.
Okay. Well, I hope you take what we're telling you sincerely, and we would like to see some results, good results. Thank you very much.
Mr. Pope, I'm not sure if you saw, but the council member has put his contact information in the chat, and you should be able to contact him.
Okay.
And I actually remember seeing some of the trash issues a few years ago when I was campaigning, and calling them in at that time. And I'm sorry that it's gotten out of hand in the intervening time. I apologize for that.
All right, thank you very much.
We only have so many eyes on the council and on staff, and appreciate you bringing it to our attention, as I said. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. and Ms. Pope, for bringing this to our attention. Certainly support council working to get this addressed. And I know this is one part of the problem, not the entirety of it. But have you and your neighbors looked into our permitted parking program?
They're part of it.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
we
already
actually
done.
founded it.
Okay, well, good to know. I'm glad that you guys are involved in that, and hopefully our enforcement can address the problem. And I would ask, and I'm sure I don't need to ask, but I would ask to please come back to us if this doesn't end up getting addressed, and continue to keep us apprised. And then just one unrelated question, Mr. Pope. Are you by chance related to the Willie Pope who pitched for the Homestead Grays?
Willie Pope, where?
Who pitched for the Homestead Grays?
I didn't understand the last part you said.
The baseball team, the
Oh.
Homestead Grays.
Oh. No, I'm not. No.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Town Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may, just for a
Please.
brief moment. Mr. Pope, Dr. Pope, again, thank you for coming in, first for the email and then for coming in and sharing your experience and the conditions here. And I think it's good for everyone to know, though, that I've directed the police chief to step up enforcement, the development services director to send his inspectors over to the area for any private property issues, and for Director Lewis from our Public Works Department to send her staff to ensure that we have regular street sweeping, so the street sweeper comes through. We're going to put serious resources, not just today, because you raised this concern, but I'm going to make sure it's on an ongoing basis. That my cell phone number is on the email that I exchanged with Dr. Pope. If you have any concerns, please give me a call. I take calls quite late and quite early. Just let me know what it is that you're observing, and I'll get with the staff team, and we will do everything we can to make serious improvements here. We appreciate you also being here for 42 years.
No, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
very much.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Callan, yes.
can I add small word in this matter?
Sure.
I would like the town manager and you and the town manager to tell the chief to assign one of the police officers who is monitoring that area to levy heavy fine on them, those who are misusing the area, to heavy levy, like tickets, they give the high tickets or they charge them to courts. Because you see, some people, if you don't set an example, they can never stop. You have to set an example on some people. When you set the example, they're going to advise the others. Hey, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. When you do this, this is what's going to happen. But if you go there, oh, get out from here, come on here, you don't set an example, it cannot work. Let's give this assignment to the chief to put a special police there to monitor these people. Any small fault they see there, they give the heavy tickets or they charge them to court. That is all. They can stop. But if not, no, they can never stop. So
Okay,
thank
well,
you.
we are constrained by the fines that are in our code. And as I said, I'll be discussing a little bit about that in my report shortly. So we have to be fair, or the courts will reject our tickets, and we have to be careful about how we
Well,
fairly.
let them charge them for littering. Yeah, misusing the street,
Ab-
dirty
ab-
the street. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you again, Dr. and Mr. Pope. And I'm going to move on now to the rest of the agenda. I believe the council has had a chance to speak. So thank you again. Okay, I have a lot of things to discuss this evening. So I'll start off with the legally mandated piece of my report. We had a closed session on the 24th of March, starting at 9:46 p.m. And the reason for closing the session was General Provisions Article Section 3-305B1 to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or, there it is, performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. The reason for the meeting was to discuss the 2024-2025 performance review of town manager Listician, whether to adopt it as it was, whether to change it, and how the review would be delivered to the town manager. Those in attendance were myself, council members Smith, Faux, and Lingua. And the motions, the actions taken at the meeting were to adopt the draft performance review report as provided. That was a motion by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Faux, passed 4-0. There's a motion to direct me, the mayor, to meet with the town manager to present and discuss the review. And that motion was made by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Lingua, and it passed 4-0 also. The third was a motion to allow all attending members to discuss the meeting content with absent council members. Motion was made by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Faux, again passed 4-0. And finally, a motion to adjourn made by Councilmember Faux, seconded by Councilmember Smith, passed 3-0, and I was abstaining. Closed session adjourned at 9:57 p.m. So it was a fairly short meeting. And that concludes the legally required closed meeting report about that meeting. I attended this morning the legislative committee meeting for the Prince George's County Municipal Association. And today was the last day of the legislature for this session. I guess they're probably still working right now for the next few hours. I think they take it right up to the limit. Two pieces of legislation that are very much of interest to this council. The first was one on accessory dwelling units and directing local governments, and in this case it would be Prince George's County, to allow accessory dwelling units on the property of single-family homes. And that legislation has passed both houses and will be sent to the governor shortly. It's expected to be signed. The legislation has to be in place, I believe, October of 2026. So there's a little bit of time for the legislation to be developed and voted on at the county level. The second one is that the limit of municipal fines, which is for many years has been $1,000 for a single infraction, has now been raised to $5,000. So for certain of the more egregious things that we see, if you have a property owner who does not have a livable dwellings for their people they're renting to, then that fine limit can now be raised. So we should review, the town should review the fine levels that we have for various infractions and see if we want to take advantage of these new limits when they come into effect shortly. I don't have any other updates from the legislative session. So I'll move on to the next topic. I think I may have mentioned this. I don't think I did actually at the work session. Late in March, the owners of the K-Fritz development transferred a significant fraction of the commercial properties, commercial-only properties, in the area, in the Riverdale Park Station area, to a new owner. And I'm a little bit concerned. We've developed a very good working relationship with the K-Fritz team, Riverdale Park Station team over the years, and have made sure that the building standards are met. But we have a new owner and a new operator, and we will be reaching out to them to establish a relationship with them shortly. I think that everyone on the council is aware of this, there is an upcoming election on the 5th of May. There'll be early voting on the 4th of May, a few hours on the 4th. And I encourage everyone to meet with candidates and learn about the election and to get out and vote on that election. A little pleasant piece of news, another piece of pleasant news is that I finally made my way to the MAP Grill House on Saturday night. My wife and I ditched our children, who are quite picky eaters, and went to the grill house and had a delicious dinner. It was a fantastic place to go. And my wife, the First Lady, talking to the owner, mentioned the fact that they have ongoing plans to open up additional seating and a bar area in the not terribly distant future. And so I look forward to being able to go there soon. The last thing I'm going to bring up is, and I've been discussing this in each of my reports, is the new administration in Washington, D.C. Several things have come up in earlier meetings about our concerns, things that are going on. And I very much try to talk about the local impact on the town of things that are going on. And something's going on right now that has me quite angry, quite upset, quite scared, honestly. And it does have a local impact. And this is about Beltsville resident Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is a native of El Salvador and had near refugee status in the United States. He had been granted an order from the immigration court that he was not allowed to be deported. And in spite of this, on March 15th, he was scooped up by ICE and deported for supposedly being a gang member. To my knowledge, and I pay a fair amount of attention to what's going on, no court has received any evidence of him being a gang member, despite them being quite a few appeals, quite a few court hearings. No evidence has been presented about the fact that he was a gang member. And the thing that is most scary, I don't know whether that's true or not, but what's most scary is that he did not receive the due process of law. And this is something that is central to our constitutional democracy, is that the law applies and the law has to be, people have to have a chance to show their innocence before they are punished. In this case, there was no hearing. There was no hearing before a judge. There's no review of evidence. Simply scooped up, put on an airplane, and deported to a very unpleasant prison in El Salvador. And the district federal judge, ordered the government to return him to Beltsville by midnight tonight. There was an appeal by the administration to the circuit court, and then to the appeals court, and then to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court issued an administrative stay this afternoon. And so the order to have him return to the country is currently being stayed until the Supreme Court has a chance to review the case. But I just want to close in my discussion of this particular incident by reading a phrase that I learned about while following this case. And this was a grievance from the Declaration of Independence. It's grievance number 19, and it was written by Thomas Jefferson roughly 250 years ago, when the Declaration of Independence was being drafted, and it was adopted by the Continental Congress. And these were grievances against the King of England. And grievance 19 reads, "For transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses." And it was this exact sort of activity of grabbing someone, of putting them on a ship to be tried in England, that was considered by the founding farmers when they were writing our Constitution. And it is shameful to me that the government of our country is now guilty of things that we we had in our founding documents and the documents that motivated us to leave the control of the English government. And I'm hopeful that the Supreme Court will make an appropriate decision and that we will see the rule of law put back where it should be. This is, of course, not the only thing coming out of the administration right now. There are firings of federal employees. Some of these were also reversed. The first round of probationary employees, most of those were reversed by court order. I know that that many people who'd worked for a year or less were out of a job for a while. Now they are back, at least for the moment. The more recent ones seem to be following the federal regulations on reductions in force, but nevertheless, these are very painful. I know there are a lot of town residents who have been subject to these, and my sympathy is with you all. And I hope you are able to find employment quickly and hopefully more reliable employment. And of course, last but not least, and this was mentioned in the discussions of our budget, are the recently enacted tariffs. I believe that these could have catastrophic economic outcomes. And I am hopeful again that the administration will reverse themselves on this. I believe from my readings that again, this is an overreach of the authorizing law and that it is certainly stretching the edges, if not beyond the edges of the law. And I am hopeful that either the courts or the administration will reverse them and will bring us back to a greater adherence to the law and a more stable economic situation. And with that, I will close my report. Thank you all. The next item on the agenda is the town manager's report. Mr. Town Manager.
Mr. Mayor, let me just start by saying well said. And thank you. Reminder that we have 3 upcoming budget public hearings, one April the 19th, one the 24th, that's in the evening, and one on the 26th. We did have to change the budget adoption schedule. The county is now requiring that municipalities report their tax rates by May 19th. So we are asking that the public hearing for the tax rate be moved to Monday, April 28th to allow for sufficient time to hear from the public and then for the council to consider any input before making the final decision on the budget. This past Saturday, in terms of some nice news, 83 families who had 162 children with them attended the Spring Fling Egg Hunt. And so we want to thank our partners at Riversdale House Museum and our families who took some time out to experience some joy. The Anacostia Watershed Society annual Earth Day cleanup is April 26th. And there's more information available on the town's website. And then a reminder from the Ethics Commission that the calendar year 2024 financial disclosure statements are due by April 28th. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Appreciate that. Next item on the agenda is the monthly finance report.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Yes, so what we have here is the monthly finance report for the month of March, fiscal year 2025, which shows a revenue and expenditure comparison. We have the months of January, February, March, and then a year-to-date total. So for the month of March, revenue totaled $455,381. Expenditures total $652,254. And then we have a revenue net expenditure amount of negative $206,873. Um, for fiscal year 25 year to date, we have a revenue total of $10,124,037 and an expenditure total of $6,831,242, with a current revenue net expenditure total of $3,292,795. For the month of March, and February, we did have negative revenue and expenditures, and this is just explained due to us receiving revenue in earlier parts of the year. So the majority of our revenue has already been received. So that's why we have the negative months of February and March. The year to date, we are currently at 91% of what was budgeted with April, May, and June. In comparison to the previous fiscal year, we are up about 6% in terms of percentage of budget, and actually down 1% in comparison to fiscal year 2023. As far as expenditures, we're at 61% of what was budgeted, which is actually a little bit less than 24, 68%, and 69% for fiscal year 23. Overall, the town continues to be conservative with expenditures, especially in light of all the uncertainty surrounding all of the things that are happening currently. We also have some additional salary savings with unhired positions. Yeah, overall, town is in a favorable financial standing to meet its budgeted revenue and stay within its budgeted expenditures. So if there's any questions regarding the monthly finance report, I'd be happy to assist.
Thank you, Deputy Finance Director Jones. Are there questions for Deputy Director Jones? Looks like there are none. Any public questions? Pretty clear report. It looks like I don't have any questions myself. I appreciate the explanations as always of the negative monthly numbers and the fraction of budget being spent does in fact look good. So as the town manager pointed out in the budget overview document, that we are keeping under our budget pretty well on the expenditure side. Says we usually have at this time a motion to adopt the monthly finance report. Does the finance chair wish to make such a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt this monthly finance report, subject to audit.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua to adopt the report subject to audit, seconded by Councilmember Foe. Is there council discussion of this motion? Hearing none, are there any public comments on this motion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia is absent. Councilmember Kellon.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. That brings us to the correspondence summary. I will be honest, I didn't even look at the correspondence summary. So it's the fire department report, so we'll get to that next. So moving on to the fire department report.
Mr. Mayor, I'm waiting for a report, the shared report that the county sends with the detailed data. So I don't have an update for you on that. We did receive an email from Mr. Lamphere with some bulleted points.
Okay, which was provided in the packet.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, unless, given the hour particularly, then unless anyone wants it to be read, I would ask that all council members review the written report. Everybody looks okay with that. So let's continue on to the next item, which is council committee and board reports, starting with Councilmember Smith, Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate your earlier comments on the situation in our country and in our community. And it probably will surprise no one. I have some thoughts to add. Just some more details about Mr. Garcia. Abrego Garcia was lawfully present in the United States. He lived with his wife and special needs child and volunteered in our community, helping teach other special needs kids how to swim. And note, this is our community, as the mayor mentioned. It's not just Beltsville. Mr. Garcia's first interaction with immigration authorities happened at the Home Depot in Hyattsville, where I'm sure many of us shop, just around the corner, just down the street from our town. He was abducted off the streets of Prince George's County by thugs in civilian clothes without evidence or cause, and sent to a prison in El Salvador that is notorious for torture, forced labor, murder, and rape. In adjacent to our town, also here in Hyattsville, in the federal court, that is where the argument was made that the administration had full authority to do this, and no one, not the courts, not Congress, no one but the president can say shit about it. That is offensive to me, that that's happening in our own community. It is an outrage, and I think everyone in our community should be outraged by it. And not only did they make those statements in the court here in our community, they went on Twitter and on the news and made callous jokes about the fact that Mr. Garcia is now in this prison, and released propaganda videos on Twitter with the Secretary of Homeland Security standing in front of his cell, and had the nerve to tell the court they had no ability to find him in El Salvador and bring him back here where he belongs. Maya Angelou, I think we're all familiar with the quote, when someone shows us who they are, shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And I can only judge this administration, this hateful, criminal, immoral administration, by its actions. And what it has told us is that our Constitution is no longer in effect, and we can be in denial about that. But that is what their actions indicate. They have told us that they are at war with our communities. The law that they invoked to deport Mr. Garcia and others, to abduct them, is a wartime law. It is only meant to be used in times of war against an enemy adversary. So it makes me ask the question, what are we going to do about it? This is happening in our own community. I think all of us need to reckon with the likelihood that we will individually, in the next few years, have the opportunity to put our own bodies on the line and in harm's way for justice. And I hope that I can, and that all of us can, as this body, as this community, make the right decision if that event comes to pass. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Foe, Ward 2.
Good evening, everyone. I'll keep my remarks short tonight. Caitlin Fike lost her job last week as an FDA employee for the last 14 years. I'm speaking to her, about her, with her approval this evening. She immediately is receiving interviews outside of the public sector. And she's lucky, right? Mayor Thompson, I have other neighbors that are not so lucky. It is just an absolutely phenomenally chaotic time in this area. And the one thing that I keep falling back on is it is not the role of the government to throw families into chaos. we are seeing that first and foremost in our community with these mass layoffs where incredibly talented people who not only live in this space, but they volunteer for our town. I mean, I can think of 4 residents already who have lost employment, who have volunteered in our elections, on our Walk Bike Drive committee. It is just asinine to actually be able to put names and faces to these are incredibly intelligent people that are willing to sacrifice salary to be able to have a better work-life balance. I'm seeing a preponderance of mothers being fired. 45% of the federal workforce is women because it offers a better work-life balance. We are just seeing our community destroyed in front of us, and that impacts everyone, not just residents. It impacts the ability for us to be an employer. If home sales, which I envision will follow these mass layoffs, will drive down property values and diminish tax revenues. Like, this is the abject destruction of the DMV through firings and through federal immigration enforcement. I read a stat placed forward that the expectation is that maybe up to 40% of the restaurants in the surrounding area will close due to this enforcement. I don't want to continue down this path, but it is just remarkably painful to be sitting in these living rooms right now and suffering with these families as their lives are flipped upside down for RIFs that don't even state appropriate information. I have this from a firee themselves. Her RIF states performance evaluation numbers that are made up. It's unfactual. She was labeled as an administrative employee because that's the only way they could get her in the door, and she was caught up in mass firings. Just to see the intent of our government to be pain and suffering is ridiculous. And it's why I am so glad to be a part of this body. It's because it's where I feel comfortable to speak this truth. And it's where I think I can help be led to action that will be beneficial on behalf of our constituents and residents. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Lingua, Ward 3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing I wanted to bring up, I've heard from some residents regarding about stop sign enforcement. It was written to by one gentleman, was asking if the town would be willing to explore automated stop sign enforcement, being that the legislature has given its approval. He's referring to the state legislature. I mentioned to them about the Walk Bike Drive Advisory Group. I've spoken with one member of that group about this, and we'll be forwarding on contact information so that they can discuss this even more. Coming up this coming Saturday, there will be a group gathering over at the Riverside Neighborhood Park. This is part of CCAN, as well as the green team here, for an invasive vine removal over in that area. Porcelainberry and similar strands. That will be from 10 till 1 p.m. I will send this, if staff would like me to, I can send along what was sent to me so that that could be posted on the website or other social media pages should anyone be so inclined to participate. As well, I received an email from a Mr. Antoine Thompson regarding to spread the word about a GWRCCC Earth Day Walk and Green Expo on the 19th of April. I know that our green team is doing something at that time, but I told them I would share it with this group. There's a press release at https://conta.cc/3FWAEMY to find out more information. It's a Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition, pardon me. And that's going to be they'll be doing something down on the National Mall starting at 10 a.m. on the 19th. It looks like they're also going to be having a 5K walk as well. Speaking of walking and running, and starting this coming Sunday over in College Park, there is the Healthy Kids running program, and it'll be going on Sundays starting on the 13th. Then there'll be one on the 27th, 4th of May, 11th of May, and the 18th of May, and these all start at 3:30 in the afternoon, and they will have things such as they'll have divisions, pre-K for 2 to 3-year-olds, which is a 50-yard dash. They have pre-K 4 to 5-year-olds, which is a 75-yard dash. There's the Challenger Series, which is a 75-yard dash. Kindergartners to first graders will do a quarter-mile run. Second and third graders, a half-mile run. Fourth and fifth, 1 mile, as well as sixth, seventh, and eighth. They'll have scoring points. There's going to be medals and T-shirts and other items handed out. The early bird discount is $48.70. After that, it's $54, and for a single race walk-up, the amount would be $22. So for parents who would like to do this, it looks like getting the early bird would be a really good idea. And I will send along this information to staff. Hopefully they can post this as well. This is going to be at Lane Manor Park, which is at 7602 West Park Drive in College Park. I wanted to get that out. And a way to say that for a lot of us, it's important at this time that we stay active in what we're doing. About 8 years ago, upon the first time that our current president was elected as the 45th president, was asked by another council member, what are we to do? And my response to them at that time was, we continue to govern as best we can and execute those democratic values that we hold and that we're sworn to do. Because that's one of the ways that we try and counter such actions that are not done in that fashion. And with this current return, I think it's going to take that and a number of things more. Conversation I had with some family the other day about things going on, and there's asking, well, what can we do? And I said, well, I know you live in a district, you have a Republican representative for your district. It's a matter of really paying attention to what they're doing and asking them to explain their actions and their votes. and to have that dialogue. As distasteful as the representative may feel it would be, it's well within their right to ask how they're addressing certain bills in Congress and how they're approaching things, as well as to their not approaching things. Because that's really what democracy is about. It's that dialogue, it's engaging, and it's something that all of us will need to be doing here on forward for really who knows how long, hopefully beyond which, if there's a change in administrations and a change in how governance is approached here, hopefully for the better, that those dialogues do need to continue afterwards, because that's the best insurance to be able to preserve the democracy we all hope for and to keep striving for a more perfect union. With that, I'll conclude my report.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Inyang, Ward 4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start administrative and then kind of circle back to some of my thoughts on some of the ongoing conversations. One, also, share similar concerns about the new ownership across large parts of the commercial properties in Riverdale Park Station. Relationships with developers can be tricky, and landlords as in general. But I think over the last 8 years or so, it was I think an level of understanding and sort of cooperation and sort of dialogue was sort of established with the Cape Ford's team. And so I know they're not going away per se, but also looking forward to engaging with the new ownership group. And if there's any sort of calls or conversations, would love to be pulled into that moving forward. I've gotten a couple of different sort of requests from folks asking about, I think it's probably what's our stance or participation in the larger conversation around volunteer fire department, sort of closures or, lack of service across the county. And I think it's another reminder to me that it's a conversation we've been talking about for almost a year now. And so it's unfortunate that the fire chief is not present or hasn't been present for a while, but I know it's a pending action to sort of have a more kind of detailed conversation. So raising that again to looking forward to that, so that we can have a more sort of informed conversation, data driven around just not just the state of our current service, but also, what's the plan moving forward for the volunteer fire department within town. A couple other things. I think it's really, I appreciate the Popes coming on and talking about the issues that they're seeing in their street. I think, it's been stated multiple times that for whatever reason, east of rivers on the East Coast, maybe because it's in floodplains and less desirable land historically, have been underinvested, and so what can we, it's good to hear that there's sort of already a plan in place to increase attention to that particular area and that community. I know we've talked about the issues of trash and litter along the sort of east-west highway corridor. Kenworth Avenue also, has similar issues. I know we've had residents talk about dumping near the sort of Maryland Avenue businesses. And so this is it's a larger area, and I think it's probably a worthwhile conversation to think about. Is there structural things that we can be doing to combat this? And I'm happy to hear about the increases in fines as an opportunity to sort of reevaluate sort of what our sort of fine structure is, and is there opportunities to increase it to hopefully dissuade folks from, their current behavior. In a positive note, East of the River Gets a Win was excited to hear that I don't even know what you call it, the trail connecting Patterson, Street to underneath the bridge is finally getting its due. I haven't been able to sort of go in and see if the actual construction is started or is completed, but as a avid cyclist and has seen the Northeast Branch Trail be redone multiple times, while Patterson Street connection, remained a dirt road, always seemed to be nonsensical and almost again another example of structural um, uh,
Neglect.
neglect. There you go. It's a bit neglect on the county's part of being able to sort of literally service the parallel parts of the same body of water. So I'm really happy to hear that, and reach out to Councilmember Alston as well to to thank him for whatever efforts he's had, knowing that this has been on the budget and on the roadmap for years. And I think I agree. I appreciate that this body's emphasis on making it a priority in all of the letters that we sort of sent to MMPPC at the start of the year in terms of like projects that mean a lot to us. So I'm grateful for that. And I know the many residents who live in that part of our town, the Purple Line neighborhood, who are almost essentially cut off from the rest of the town and sort of rely on this as an artery to get in and out. So I'm super excited about that. The last bit of administrative items, I know there's a group of residents who sort of organize a candidate forum. The mayor talked about there is an election coming up, and so in the River of Life Church on 54th Avenue on April the 21st. From essentially 6 to 8, there'll be the meet and greet, and then a forum and Q&A with members of the community who are running for election. So I encourage the residents and everyone to sort of attend if they can, ask questions, and meet folks who are vying for your votes. And then lastly, just in the spirit of sort of all that's been said, as a person who is married to a federal worker and has sort of been on the receiving end of just a listening ear of hearing the stress, the anxiety that comes with not being sure if your badge is going to work when you show up at work every particular day. This is a really difficult time for a lot of our residents. I think it's been said, well stated earlier in this call. I just encourage us all to sort of extend grace to our neighbors. And at times like this, you never know who is either directly affected or indirectly affected by what's going on. A feeling of hopelessness, I think, is being pervasive. And so, if at all possible, try to check in on each other, as well as extend grace to those in any fashion that you can. It's really important, and always, but definitely now, especially. And with that, I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Councilmember. Appreciate those words. Councilmember Mejia is absent. Councilmember Kellon, Ward 6.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I will say thanks to the mayor and council, the town manager and staff for allowing me to perform my religious belief during the month of Ramadan. I thank all of you. And moreover, the Ramadan was, it's not easy. It's very active because for the whole of the day, you are hungry. You don't drink. Starting from 4:30 in the morning until 7 something in the evening. So it was so hectic, and you are walking, my daughter did a surgery. I was taking her to doctor's hospital and back to and fro. So that all is something which is very hectic for me. And from there, I have to run to go to the masjid, you know. But thank God because everything went smoothly. So I thank you all for that. Then above that, I've been talking about this speed hump over here, 54th Avenue here. I want us to do something about this. And Spring Lane, that corner is very dark. The people are complaining to me all the time. Even today, I went to that area, they were complaining about that corner. It's very dark for them. So apart from that, I don't have much to say because my area is peaceful. I'm not getting any headache for now. And all my neighbors, they are intact. I didn't see no one missing. We all are here. So that's my only report I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mr. Town Manager, there are a couple of questions that I heard come up. If you could address the lights, the street hump, and then Councilmember Lingua brought up the stop sign cameras, and you and I had a conversation about them a week or two ago. And if you could provide a brief update to the council about the stop sign camera status.
So yes, I'll start with the stop sign cameras. And I actually started to type something in the chat and I thought, well, I'll send an email later. So the town has entered into an agreement with a provider of stop sign enforcement, automated enforcement, to conduct a pilot analysis on various intersections to determine where it would be appropriate to seek the county's authority to have the automated stop sign enforcement. So we have signed with, we believe it's the only vendor who's currently providing that service in Maryland. So we will hopefully have some data here shortly. Chief Turner, do you know when we may have that launched? I know we signed the agreement, but do you know when they may be in the field?
Yeah, I think we expect it within a month.
Okay, great. And so we'll get that data and then go from there. We'll be coming back to you with whatever agreement we negotiate for approval. And but the goal was to definitely have this up and running no later than the end of this calendar year.
Fantastic.
Do you want me to address the others? I see Director Lewis turn her camera on. So we will be putting speed humps along 54th as part of our street improvement projects. So we'll be coming back to you all with the next round of projects. I think we completed like 13 last year. We're coming back to you with a list of other improvements. Director Lewis is working with the engineers now, but we will be including speed humps on 54th as part of that. What I don't have an update on, and I hope Director Lewis does, any final numbers from Pepco on what we can do with the streetlights on Spring and 54th at that turn?
Yes, I can answer that. Actually received and signed off on a cost letter about 2 weeks ago. That starts the process when we commit to fund the project at Pepco's cost. They will not tell me when we can expect the lights to be installed. I keep checking in just to let them know this is something that's a priority for the town, but they will not give me a specific date. We actually requested lights in 3 locations on 54th Avenue where it meets Spring Lane, the 54th Place Park, and then Kennedy Street. 7 lights in all. It may be that that number of lights, for whatever reason, is taking quite a bit of time to get to.
Thank you for all those updates. I appreciate them. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's move on the agenda to public comments on non-agenda items and consent agenda items. Are there any members of the public in attendance who wish to make comments at this time? Hearing none, seeing no unmuted microphones, then let's move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda we do not debate nor discuss, just have a simple up or down vote. So may I please have a motion to approve consent agenda items?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Inyang, seconded by Councilmember Foe. And I will just do the roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Did I skip over Councilmember Lingua? I did. Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
And Councilmember Kellogg.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia is absent. And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. Let's move on to legislative action items. First item is motion to adopt resolution 2025-R-06 regarding reappointment to the Ethics Commission. Can we see the legislative action item first? That's the oath of office. So this is the renewal for Tamika Richardson, and she has agreed to attend. And so if I might, can I please have a motion to adopt the resolution 2025-R-06 to reappoint Tamika Richardson to the Ethics Commission?
So moved.
Seconded.
Woo, I don't even know who did that. I think the motion was Councilmember Inyang, and I'll give the second to Councilmember Lingua. Hope nobody minds.
The other way around.
If you want it the other way around, I'm good with it. Motion by Lingua, seconded by Inyang. Everybody was pretty much all at once. Is there any discussion of the motion? Are there any public comments? Let's do a roll call vote then. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Can you repeat? I only got like a little blip there.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Kellogg.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. Ms. Richardson, if you are still with us.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you so much for your patience. If I can please raise your hand and repeat after me. I, Tamika Richardson,
I, Tamika Richardson,
do swear or affirm
do swear or affirm
that I will diligently and honestly
that I will diligently and honestly
administer the affairs
administer the affairs
of the Ethics Commission
of the Ethics Commission
for the town of Riverdale Park
for the town of Riverdale Park
in accordance with Chapter 32
in accordance with Chapter 32
of the Riverdale Park Town Code,
of the Riverdale Park Town Code,
and that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of alternate member of the Ethics Commission
of alternate member of the Ethics Commission
for the town of Riverdale Park,
for the town of Riverdale Park,
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
Thank you very much. You are sworn in. I appreciate your patience until we could get to you on the agenda. And I will, as soon as you can sign the document, then I will sign the document and you will be on the commission. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I look forward to continuing serving. Have a great night.
You too. Okay, next item, item 2, motion to authorize the town manager to enter into a 5-year agreement with UniFirst Uniform Services for uniform cleaning services for the Department of Public Works. Can we have a brief presentation from staff on this item?
Yes, good evening, everyone. This item is back before you for your authorization for the town manager to sign a 5-year agreement with UniFirst for an amount not to exceed $28,611, which reflects a 15% contingency. Mr. Mayor, this number was left inadvertently out of the staff report. It may need to be a part of the motion. As mentioned during the March work session, UniFirst is the town's current provider of uniforms and cleaning services, related cleaning services for Public Works. The fee under this contract will be $90.10 per week for 5 years for a total of $24,897 over this time. The 15% contingency totaling $3,732 will cover any additional uniforms that might be purchased for new staff or to replace a lost garment for existing staff anytime over the next 5 years. The damaged garments are covered by the garment maintenance protection fee, which is a part of the $90 per week fee. The draft agreement included a termination clause after the first 2 years with no penalty. Staff countered with a termination clause with a 90-day notice during any time of the contract, which is pretty standard in town contracts. I was told by UniFirst that under the Sourcewell purchasing agreement, there are price concessions that increase with agreements that are less than 5 years. UniFirst is construing the 90-day termination clause to be less than a 2-year contract, and as a result, the price will increase by 10%, adding about $2,500 to the cost of the contract over 5 years. Given the lower cost of this contract under the Sourcewell agreement, the company expressed concern that termination possibly happening within the first 2 years is a problem, and they're more comfortable with the possibility of termination after 2 years. We would like your preference on this item so that we can conclude the negotiations. And with that, I'll take questions. Thank you. And sorry, my voice is not stronger. It's been a long day.
That's fine. Happens to all of us eventually.
Yeah.
If you could, Director Lewis, if you could possibly type the numbers into the chat, just so I can make them as part of the. You mentioned that it didn't appear that it was in the motion.
Yes,
So, Council, what is your preference, to have a 2-year contract or to have the 90-day termination clause? Is there a preference before we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Yang, go ahead.
I guess for me, how often or like the likelihood that staff think that a contract like this could be terminated, and so therefore the need for the termination language. I understand like the consistency. I think that's important, but if my understanding is correct, the locking in a better rate for a period of time may seem to be the ideal thing, since I'm not sure why we have to choose, but if given those choices, that seems like something we should probably solve for. But it's a new vendor, and so I can appreciate the need to maybe cancel this if needed for a variety of reasons.
Mr. Council Member, we've actually contracted with this company on a 2-year basis since 2019. And so I don't anticipate a need to even cancel the contract in 2 years, sort of based on their performance over that time. But there is a clause within the draft agreement that we can cancel after 2 years if we choose, with no penalty. But with a 90-day termination clause, the fee will go up 10% for the first year, cover the first 2 years, and then 5% for every year after that. That's the $2,500 difference over 5 years if we go with the shorter termination clause.
Got it. Thank you.
So we have experience with the vendor. So
Yes, we do, for a number of years.
Okay. I think
It's been a good experience.
Director Lewis, he asked if it had been a good experience. We've had.
Oh, yes, it's definitely been a good experience. They're like clockwork. They pick up and drop off clothes weekly, or the uniforms weekly. Yes,
Okay.
they're very reliable.
Well, it sounds
Mr. Mayor,
like.
if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
One word that's being bandied about these days is uncertainty. And if we can have some certainty on what our costs are going to be on this over the next 5 years, I think that would be a good way to go.
Okay. Well, would you like me to make a model motion and then you can say so moved, or would you like to make the motion?
Go right ahead.
Okay.
Being that you won't be doing this much longer, I'm just gonna let you have your fun.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to authorize the town manager to enter into a 5-year agreement with Uniform Services for uniform cleaning services for the Department of Public Works for an amount not to exceed $28,611, reflecting a 15% contingency?
I move the motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kellogg, seconded by Councilmember Lingua. Is there discussion of the motion?
Just as has been pointed out by Director Lewis, this is a company we've had a good working relationship with for the past 5 years. Very reliable, very consistent. We're looking at a essentially cost that is going to, over the 5 years, you're looking at about roughly 3% per annum increase. With the way things are going, if we know that that's going to be our projected increase, at least on this item, being that other items might be more uncertain. It just makes sense during this time to lock into something over this amount of time.
Okay, very good. Any additional council discussion of the motion? I don't see any open microphones. So are there any public comments? Don't see any. So do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Enyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Kellogg.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
We are now moving into unfinished business. First is a motion to adopt resolution 2025-R-07, confirming appointments and establishing compensation for judges for the town election on May 5th, 2025. And if you can scroll down. So those are, is resolution R07 visible? Well, we can have a staff introduction of this if you'd like. Go ahead with the memo.
Good evening, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. These items have been discussed at the last 2 work sessions. Staff have done extensive outreach to the community to try to find election judges and alternate election judges and members of the Board of Election Appeals. At this point in time, we thought that the council could adopt a resolution, and if we get any other interest, and perhaps repeal and replace it at the end of the month to add new names. The only difference that I'd like to point out in this resolution is providing compensation for the election judges for early voting. So that was something we needed to consider because they're adding 4 additional hours for early voting. So the way staff calculated it was simply to take the rate that we have paid the election judges in the past, divide that out to an hourly rate, and then multiply it by the 4 hours. For now, I do think there's a desire to in the future reevaluate the way that we handle payment of election judges, but for now, this just keeps everything the same and adds the compensation for the early voting.
Thank you,
we
Director.
do have 3. I'm sorry, we do have 3 election judges. We really need 1 more alternate, so we're still trying to find somebody.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Any council questions, or is someone ready to make a motion?
I have a question here.
Go ahead.
This early voting, it starts from the 1st to what?
Early voting is on May the 4th, and it's 4 additional hours. The council is authorized from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Town Hall.
Oh, May the 4th?
Yes, on Sunday, May the 4th in the evening.
That's the
afternoon early.
That's it. Oh, I thought it's from the 1st to the 4th. Well, only May the 4th.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Early voting on the 4th and full day voting on the 5th.
I know. Thank you very much.
Okay. So would someone like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-R-07 confirming appointments and establishing compensation for judges for the town election on May 5th, 2025?
Hold the motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Callan, seconded by Councilmember Inyang. Is there discussion of the motion? Can we scroll down and see the judges, list of judges? Thank you. Any council discussion? Any public comments? I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Foe?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang?
Aye.
Councilmember Callan?
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. Next item on the unfinished business is Resolution 2025-R-08, appointing members of the Board of Election Appeals for the town election on May 5th, 2025. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Smith. If we could scroll down. So these are the members of the Board of Election Appeals. This is a board that meets should there be a challenge to the elections. And so it is pretty unlikely that they will be called into service. And so those are the members. Is there any additional discussion of the motion to approve Resolution 2025-R-08? Are there any public comments? Hearing none, I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Foe?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang?
Aye.
Councilmember Callan?
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. This brings us to new business. First item of new business is a motion to authorize the town manager to sign a task order agreement with ECM Corporation to install stormwater infrastructure in the Adam and Emily Plummer Park for an amount not to exceed $83,880. Presume that staff are prepared to talk about this.
Yes, Director Lewis.
Yes, Plummer Park is being developed in 3 phases. I should start off with, we're very excited to see this project finally moving forward in 3 phases. Phase 1 is and that's the subject of the staff report. And this agenda item involves the installation of stormwater infrastructure on the west side of the park. Phase 2 is the complete build out of the lazy metal design across the entire site. And phase 3 is the interpretive overlay commemorating the Plummer family history in Riverdale Park. The contractor's cost estimate is just under $70,000, and the project is expected to start within 3 to 4 weeks and be completed over about 45 days, assuming everything goes as planned, including the county's final inspection. These improvements are being designed to county standards, and when the engineers' as-built plans are approved by DPI, the County Department of Public Works and Transportation will accept the system into the county's inventory for ongoing maintenance. The town will need to give the county an easement to access the property for that maintenance. And with that, I'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lewis. Are there questions before making the motion?
Yes, Ms. Director, I'm confused. Where is this Palmer Park?
It's immediately south of the bridge into Riverdale Park Station. If you're coming out of Riverdale Park Station via the bridge and go past the traffic circle on Tuckerman, there's a large swath of land that belongs to the town and is the location of Plummer Park. Did that help?
No, it didn't help me. I didn't still understand. How are you going to go to the Palmer Park? That's what I want to know. I don't know this Palmer Park. All the time, Palmer Park.
I don't know if we can get a map up that we can.
No, listen, like when you take Queenberry Road, right?
Yes, so council member, if you take Queensberry Road to Lafayette and you walk on Lafayette going north, as if you're walking up to Riverdale Park Station.
Okay.
Before you get to the bridge, it's on the right-hand side. There's just an open field. And so it's there at Lafayette and Tuckerman, and it's before River Tech Court where you get into the more commercial buildings, the large commercial.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
it's a big open field there.
I now understand because I used to work at River Tech
Yep.
for long years. Yeah,
Mhm.
now I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Can someone please make a motion to authorize the town manager to sign a task order agreement with ECM Corporation to install stormwater infrastructure in Adam and Emily Plummer Park for an amount not to exceed $83,880?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Inyang. Is there a discussion of this motion? Are there any public comments? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Kellon.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is something that I dearly wish was not on the agenda, and that is a declaration of vacancy in Ward 5. Let me read from section 209 of the town charter. And that section is in the chapter on the town council. And section 209A reads, a vacancy shall be declared to exist if a council member resigns, is deceased, is recalled, is convicted of a felony, fails to retain all qualifications necessary for his election, fails to attend 3 consecutive regular council meetings without being excused by the council, or if no one is elected in an election. Councilmember Mejia, I have not been able to contact her for certainly for 3 meetings, perhaps 5 or 6 at this point. And thus we as a council are required by the charter to declare a vacancy. And with that, I'll take any questions that people may have on this item.
Yes, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Kalan.
have we visited her on her residence to see what is happening with her?
I have not gone to her building and knocked on her door. No, I sent her multiple text messages. I contacted.
Yeah, you have to visit and see. Maybe she's in the hospital admitted or something happened. We don't know. We have to go there and inquire before you declare the word vacant. That is most important. Go there. She have children to ask the children where is your mom.
So at this point, the council either needs to forgive her absences, or we need to.
Because we don't know what happened to her.
You're right. We don't. But the law, the charter says that this is what we are required to do.
Yeah, emergency can occur at any time. Yes, maybe she's in a coma. We don't know. You have to go there and check.
So I have heard, Director Barnes can confirm this, that she responded in some way to the invitation to come to the State of the Town that occurred in early March. Is that correct, Director Barnes?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. She accepted the meeting invite as she was attending.
But she did not attend. She did not attend the March legislative meeting. She did not attend the February work session. And so those are 3 required meetings, the consecutive required meetings that she did not attend. She did not attend the March work session, and she has not attended this meeting. So that is, if I'm counting correctly, at least 5 consecutive meetings that she has not attended. And she did, as Director Barnes said, respond to the invitation to the State of the Town, but did not attend.
Mr. Mayor, can you send me her address so that I can visit there tomorrow to inquire what is happening with her? I can do that favor for you.
I would be happy to have you do that. But this evening we have an election in under a month. And
I know.
And so, and she is not on the ballot. She did not fill out the ballot application. So,
okay, well, let's forget about it.
So we either this evening we either have to have the council forgive her absences. Last 3 absences would be enough to forgive her, I believe, or we have to declare vacancy. So, what is the decision of the council?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Smith.
I would move that we forgive all but the 2 most recent absences for Councilmember Mejia.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to forgive all absences except the 2 most recent. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. I think that the step that is proposed here is warranted, but I do also I think my colleague from Ward 6 makes a valid point that a personal knock on the door would be the least we could do here, and like I say, I think the step seems appropriate to me, but I also want to be very deliberate in taking that step and make sure that it can't be said that this body didn't pursue every single avenue to reach our colleague in Ward 5 before we took that step. And knocking on the door, it sounds like, is one we haven't taken yet. So I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
I completely disagree. I think we are we'll probably be on this call maybe 10:30, almost 11 o'clock. I think that I understand the idea of we should do a wellness check. I think that is a separate conversation than sort of what's tasked in front of us here. I think it is clear that we're talking about the last 5 meetings, but we can go back over the last 2 years. I know we haven't had discussions on every single time there's been an absence on whether or not we've sort of voted to be excused. And so this has unfortunately been a reality that we've been sort of operating on less than a full council for most of this, most of the last year or so, to be generous. And so I think the conversations of a wellness check should happen. I think that's a separate item. I don't think that should preclude us from sort of doing what's charged from us and vacating this of this particular seat because Ward 5 has not been represented adequately, unfortunately, for at least the last 3 months. But we went in, and I haven't done this, but gone in and checked all the meeting minutes for the last 18 months to see sort of what the attendance is and how many of those absences were excused. I think it would be more than 3 that I think is required that's sort of afforded to us. And so even if you triple that number, I think we'd still be well within our sort of obligated authority to sort of vacate the role. And I think it's, it puts us all in sort of an awkward position to, town staff is, doing the work to sort of help prepare these meetings, and we're all staying up late every single time. And so I hope that she's okay. And I think if there's an opportunity to, check on her, to hopefully she's doing well, I think we should do that. But if God forbid something has happened, she would not be able to sort of serve in her capacity. And so I think it would be prudent for us to sort of vacate it, because there's an established process that is long in order to sort of what the town can do to remedy a vacated role or seat. And I'd hate to sort of delay that any longer, for the sake of the residents in Ward 5.
Thank you. And just to be clear about the requirements of the town charter, it is 3 consecutive absences, unforgiven absences. And so I don't think that that there were 3 in a row that were not forgiven in the past, but as you say, there were many that were forgiven over the last 2 years. Is there additional council discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilor Lingua, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask the staff, specifically Ms. Barnes, and ma'am, I know I might be asking you to pull a proverbial rabbit out of the hat, but I was wondering if you had the attendance records at your avail at this late hour.
I don't have them for the entire term, but I do have them for the past several months. I can report that on December 16th, January 6th, and January 27th, there were absences that were not excused. And then most previously, February 24th, March the 3rd, March the 18th, and March the 24th, and tonight are all absences. When the council adopted Resolution 2023 R11, they identified state of the town and work sessions as regular meetings, so that all of those dates cover either a work session, state of the town, or a legislative meeting.
Okay, so prior to this, there was a time where there were 3 consecutive meetings missed.
Yes, according to my records, but I have not gone all the way back to the beginning of the term. I think that was
okay. And this would make meeting number 6 consecutive wise being missed of the recent batch.
Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, 5. This will be the 5th.
5. So
Yeah.
this would be the 5th consecutive meeting missed. And there's never been a contact to you or to the mayor saying, hey, I'm not going to be able to make this meeting for this reason or another.
No.
Okay. This is the second time that I've had to go through something like this while sitting on this council, and I believe this is the second time for the mayor as well to have gone through something like this. And it is not a comfortable thing to go through, and I think the lesson here forward for this council and future bodies is that there is established a way to address absences in a prompt manner when they
Coming right back.
okay. It's my feeling regarding this, what we're addressing now. My sentiments are quite similar to those of my colleague from Ward 4. Hence the reason I was asking of staff the most recent record of attendance from our colleague from the 5th Ward.
Okay. Does that conclude your remarks, Councilmember?
Yes, it does.
Any additional council discussion? We have a motion on the floor to forgive
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Foe. Yes.
I just don't want to. I don't want to be off the record on this. It's been a perpetual problem from the council member attending meetings. I don't need to pass judgment on that in any way, shape, or form. I have no idea what those life situations are that can potentially be causing that. Simultaneously, the inability to communicate with you or anybody from staff is really quite damning. And I think at this point in the game, it serves the purpose for us to enforce code. And maybe, who knows, maybe potentially it awakens somebody in that ward to desire to seek the elected position that currently stands not to be filled in the upcoming election. That's it.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to forgive all but the two most recent absences, which would put us in place to declare vacant again at the work session later this month. Are there any additional council discussion before I move to a vote?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
I just want to say I appreciate all my colleagues here, and I don't disagree with any of them in principle. I think people who are not from Ward 5 deciding that the person duly elected by Ward 5 should be removed is a big step. And I feel and felt that just taking that action, regardless of the circumstances, deserve to be talked about on the record. And I appreciate my colleagues for indulging that.
Of course. Any additional council discussion? Are there any public comments? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. And again, this is a motion to forgive all but the two most recent absences for Councilmember Mejia. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2. You were muted, Councilmember. Can you unmute?
Nay.
Councilmember Lingua, Ward 3. Nay. I heard that as a nay. Please correct me if not. Councilmember Inyang.
Nay as well.
And Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
The motion fails 2-3. So the motion to forgive was not passed.
Yeah, a tiebreaker.
Excuse me?
Yeah, a tiebreaker.
I abstain, and the motion fails 2-3. Does someone wish to make an alternate motion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to declare the seat for Ward 5 vacant.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Smith to declare the Ward 5 seat vacant. Is there discussion of this motion?
As for the reasons we discussed for the previous motion, Um, I'll let those stand.
Okay. Any additional council discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Smith.
Ward 5 deserves representation in that body, in this body. And if we don't have a council member present for extended periods, they're not getting that representation that they're entitled to. I do want to say, just for the minutes, if nothing else, that anytime I've gone to a community event in Ward 5, including some pretty tragic ones, I have encountered our colleague from Ward 5 at those events, engaged with her community, not just there and present, but doing work. And I appreciate that from her. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I agree. I have seen her very busy, very active in the community, organizing people in her ward to make their lives better. So I agree with your statement. Absolutely. Any additional council discussion of this motion to declare a vacancy in Ward 5?
I'm not talking about Ward 5 now, but I want to ask a question.
If you're not talking about Ward 5, then you are not germane to the question that's on the floor. I will entertain it briefly just in case it does have to do with Ward 5. So, but please keep in mind that we're discussing the motion on the floor is to declare a vacancy in Ward 5.
Okay. I will reserve my question.
Okay. Any additional council discussion? Any public comments? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Ward 1, Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe. You're on mute again.
2 in a row. Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
And Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. I abstain. Motion passes 5-0. We have another item of new business. Do you wish to ask your question at this time, Mr. Callan, since we're between items of new business?
Yeah. The question I want to ask concerning these absentees. Now, if somebody have an emergency like in Africa, so what are you going to do for you to go there?
Council member, I work very hard. I work very hard all day. I work very hard in most evenings, and my life right now is pretty chaotic with the things that are going on in the world. And I simply didn't have time to go over and knock on her door. So what would it take?
I'm not talking about Ward 5 now. I'm asking a general question, right? Like all of us here, some people, they have relatives in Europe, some in Africa, some in Asia. Something happened like an emergency. So you have to apply for vacation, or what you going to do to go there?
If there's a council member who has such an issue, they can contact me. As town staff might let you know, one of the first things that I did many years ago when I had symptoms that were consistent with a heart attack, when I got to the emergency room, was to contact the then town administrator and let her know my situation. And that was when I was a council member. And my wife knows that if something was happened to me and I was unconscious, that she would immediately, I think she would probably try to, get me to the hospital first, but I think she knows that it was important to let town staff know. And so that's why we have the rule of 3 consecutive meetings. That's, typically over a month. And so in a time frame of over a month, then it seems like you could manage to contact someone in town and let them know what your situation was, someone in the town government. And that hasn't happened.
Okay, like in some month you have 3 consecutive meetings. Some month is like 2 meetings, right? And let's say from here to Africa is not like one day going coming. So you have an something there like your parent or whatever, some are missing, die. Then you are the breadwinner of that family members. Then when you go there, maybe you're going to be there like a month and a half. So is that possible?
It is very definitely possible. When my father died and I had to fly to Texas, then I let my work know where I was going. I didn't just disappear and not show up to work. I let them know. When my mother died many years ago and I had to fly down, and that was 30 years ago almost, then I called my boss and I let him know where I was going. And that's part of what you do, is that on your way to deal with the emergency, certainly it's possible that you could hit all of the transfers in your travels perfectly, but generally you have a few minutes here and there where you can place a call to your employer, which the town of Riverdale Park is the employer of all of us, and say, I have a family emergency and will be disappearing for several weeks.
Well, that is understandable. That's what I want to know. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, last item under new business. We have, many of us have been talking to the Riverdale Park Business Association about a possible grant that they want to set up a business directory. And town received a formal application from the president, Mike Herman. Mr. Town Manager, can you sort of discuss your concerns and issues with that when it was received and so on? Just tell us the story.
Yes, so the town does not have an established grant program for the type of grant requested. The business association is seeking north of $20,000. I think it's 22.5. Some funds in the current fiscal year, I believe 15,000 in the current, and then 7,500 in fiscal 26, to establish a business directory that includes a blog, that includes job listings, that includes many different things, two-way communication, quite a dynamic platform. And so I did meet with Mr. Herman. Director Barnes and I met with him to learn more about what it is that they plan to do. Excuse me. The request is for the town to provide 100% of the funding. Sorry, done a lot of talking tonight. 100% of the funding. And then there would be some sort of a tiered participation or membership, or a tiered membership plan where small companies would pay X number of dollars, large companies would pay more, to include enhanced advertisements or whatever on this directory platform. So that's kind of what they're looking to do. I'm probably not doing it justice by doing this off the cuff. I don't have what he sent me right in front of me. But it's quite the endeavor. From the town's perspective, we do, town staff perspective, we do have a number of concerns about the request. I think it'd probably be better for us to reduce those to writing and provide that to the council. I did speak with Mr. Herman in advance of this meeting and said that it was going to be brought up tonight and then discussed as part of the regular budget process.
And that was at my suggestion, was that we get this on everyone's radar and discuss it during the budget process, since of course those funds will have to be found and in the budget. Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I share the town manager's lament of he's not currently at this moment capable of doing a description of this project justice. And I think as such, it would be a good idea if Mr. Herman and the association want to make such a strong request for this amount of funds that maybe they could come shed some light and fill in the blanks that the town manager doesn't have at the moment. I think that isn't much to ask for a request of this amount of funds for such a purpose.
Okay. Any additional council discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
I think the term shedding some light is putting it diplomatically. I think really what would be good to have whatever documentation was supplied by the RPBA to the town staff about this project, as well as having someone from the RPBA come and make a presentation to the council, say perhaps at the work session regarding this project, that including cost breakdown and timeline on when certain metrics would be met on this project, and as well as a final completion date, essentially an operational date as well. I agree, this is a substantial amount. Admirable as the effort is, and I know that our PPA has been making great strides to be a more dynamic group in this community, and I think in a way it's for us to try and encourage they keep forward in doing so. At the same time, in doing that and trying to achieve that bigger and better stature, this is one of those steps that need to be taken along the way.
Thank you, Councilmember. Do you have any concerns with the proposed avenue forward of having this discussed? There's a financial component, and then there's a legislative component. If we're going to create a new program, then we need to create a program that is not a program that is give the RPBA a grant of $15,000 this year, and but instead create a general program. I believe it might well be Mr. Herman who told me many years ago that writing a piece of legislation with one person in mind was not a good idea at all. And I think that writing a piece of legislation with one organization in mind is also perhaps not best. So go ahead.
Did you want me to respond to that?
I wanted you to respond to the question of the path forward, of whether there's two prongs to it, which is the legislative piece and the budget piece, and that we could discuss the budget piece at the budget hearing and might get a little more light shed.
Yeah. I think really, on the legislative side, and I agree, it's not about writing a piece of legislation for one person, group, except, however you want to put it. I think what it is writing a piece of legislation that essentially would encompass any group that would like to come to the town in an effort to improve their business through grant funding, and what procedures would be needed. In the sense, the same way that, this could be something that, say a nonprofit could come to the town to request for funds,
Sure.
so long as they're meeting, meeting what is required by what we establish as necessary for consideration to award funds. So I think, and again, this is not writing it specifically for the RPPA. This could be something that could be written for CCAR CDC or Riverdale Park Arts or any other group within the community that has an idea and is looking for some funding to help achieve their objective. So that.
Sure. But do you have concerns about discussing the funding piece of it? Because we do have to pass it.
No, I think we should discuss it, but I think part of that discussion of the funding has to be something that's presented by RPBA in terms of like what, how is this being laid, where are you seeing your costs going into,
Mhm.
and just having an understanding. I mean, it's just what's their plan, what is their vision, and what we receive and what we get back is give some indication as to how how well thought out this has been thought out on their part.
Mhm. Okay.
So,
Mr. Town Manager, do you feel that the current application is something you can share with the council, or was it presented to as a?
I think that it's a public document. There's nothing in there that's proprietary. It was sent to us through the email system. So yes, we can take that and send that out. And it's not an application because we don't have an application for this type of a grant. It's a letter, it's correspondence. We did ask them, I think, 16 clarifying questions, trying to better understand what it is we're doing. They gave responses. We can share that as well. That's a public document we can email to you. The only thing that I would add, Mr. Mayor, is that in terms of timing, I would encourage the council to not wait to the work session, but perhaps at a budget discussion, consider learning more about this, because just with timing of needing to approve the budget, if you're going to make a change, if this or something else is being approved, we would need to know that more timely.
Understood. Councilmember Inyang, you've been patient.
Yes, I would say that to the wisdom of not writing legislation for one person or entity in mind, I think it's important to sort of decouple the conversation to, is it worth funding the merits of the idea of, a business directory and some of the things that are stated? Is that worth doing? And if we want to fund it, how much should it be, and where would the funds potentially comes from, whether they're existing funds or a net new allocation? I think that's something that I would say is appropriate to have at a budget conversation very soon in one of the upcoming meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I think that another conversation about their essentially proposal to use said funds is something that I think is a larger conversation, because I actually have, I disagree in terms of, I think there's some fundamental differences in terms of like that, what they're trying to do and how it aligns with our sort of our vision statements as a town in terms of the equitability, the equity and access to some of this, especially if we're going to be paying for all of it. That's a nuance that I think, should probably, not be rushed. And so I think to not have us on a path where we are sort of forced to negotiate under the deadline, that we can have a conversation about what we think is allotted, what makes sense in terms of like a funding, backing or measure for something like this. And then, have the due diligence to sort of figure out what that might look like, and not just what their proposal is, maybe what other people's proposals are. Maybe this is something the town could do if we want to open it up. I think there are options that we could explore, But that would be my suggestion, or at least from like since you asked about the path forward.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Foe.
Yeah, I feel like I concur with a lot of the statements said by other council members. I feel like this is a dialogue that occurs over a year or two, not something that we try to sneak into this year's budget. I think even adding to the dialogue of what's in this year's budget is already been superseded. So I can't even envision having enough information to effectively decide to utilize these funds this way over the next 3 weeks. Is that the inference that's the assumption, is that this is this year's budget?
Yeah, I think that's what far
too many questions. So many. Who's going to run the technology? Is this a website that they're creating?
It
is a website.
That's the proposal, is that it's a website.
Who's going to be granted editing control over this?
I think there are answers to all of these questions, and we need to have the RPVA come talk to us about it.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not one to believe that these need to, this is not my decision, obviously. But I don't even think that needs to occur during the budgetary process for this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, but it could, and so I was putting that out as an option, as a way to move forward on this. And I've been sort of hearing,
and I'll defer to you and staff, Mr. Mayor. This is just very late in the process.
Right. And I've been hearing some of these ideas for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, but they're always sort of vague. Oh, we're going to set up a business directory. It's going to be interactive and so on. And it's like, well, give us a proposal, and, they know the schedule, our budget schedule. And
sounds like Yelp.
And the number that has always been floated was a good bit less than even the 15,000 for this year. I was a little bit surprised to hear that number. Councilmember Smith?
I would just concur, Mr. Mayor, to the extent that we would consider this proposal. It's, at soonest an FY27 proposal. I don't think we should put it on staff to try to develop something like this at the last minute, when we've just got an email, I believe today, from the town manager saying that the staff has balanced the budget. It's too late in the process. This is an FY27 thing if we're going to consider it. And to your point, the Business Association is well aware of the budget cycle. So they could have brought us to this sooner if they wanted it considered as such.
Okay. Well, we can put in, discussion of adding a budget item as part of the budget discussion if that is the desire of the council, and if not, then it doesn't have to be discussed. There's no requirement. I was just bringing that as an option. Okay, is there any additional discussion of this topic? Wasn't planning on having a decision tonight. Just wanted to get the conversation started. Councilmember Smith, I assume your hand is stuck up, so yeah, very good. Are there any other items of new business? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I don't know who the second was. Motion by Councilmember Foe. I heard Councilmember Calon as the part of the cacophony, so I'll take him.
Yeah.
Take him as the second. And neither debated nor discussed. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Calon.
Aye.
And I abstain. Motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned at 10:57 p.m. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good evening, all.
Thank you all very much.